Hello, I'm Gea Hines. I make lampwork beads that are sold at Think Long Island First. First I make the beads and then I make jewelry out of it, and today we're going to do a demonstration of how I work with my equipment and my torch. So let's get started. I'm going to start by turning on all the equipment so that you can see what I use. First I turn on my oxygen concentrator because it needs a little while to power itself up. And then I'm going to turn on my kiln. I have to go wait for it to start up, and then it goes through a sequence and it'll power itself up to 960 degrees because that's the temperature that I work with. And now it's on, and it's going to ramp itself up. Oh wait, it's not on. Now it's on. It's going to ramp itself up really fast to 960 degrees, as fast as it can. So I'm going to start today. We're going to make this bead. It has a base of black with silver scrolling, and it's encased in clear. Safety first. Goggles on. I know it looks pretty.
That looks good.
So here I go. I'm turning on my torch. And now we're going to add some oxygen so it'll be ready to go. I want a nice hot flame. It still needs to get the oxygen to the torch. And I'm going to start with a black base bead. I'm going to use this lentil shaper to shape the bead into an oval. And when I like the shape when I'm done, then I'm going to use this pre-pulled stringer to do the scrolling. So first I have to slowly heat up the rod of black glass so that it doesn't break, because if I heat it up too fast it'll just break into little shards and fly all over the place. It's very dangerous and you can get really hurt. And I've done that more than once. So now you can see the kiln is ramping up. It's 135 degrees now, and it just keeps going up and up until it hits 960. So here I am. I'm starting with my first gather. I'm melting the glass onto the rod. Black is a really stiff glass because it looks opaque, but it's a transparent, and transparent glasses are in general more stiff than the opaque varieties. It's kind of nice to work with because it's not droopy, but it's also harder to work with because it's stiffer. I'm going to add a little bit more heat and use a paddle to move the glass around on the mandrel. This is called a mandrel. The mandrel, before I started putting the glass on it, I dipped it in bead release, which is like a really thin clay. So that is the barrier between the metal and the glass. If I were to put it directly on the metal, it wouldn't come off. And eventually you want your bead to come off the glass. Oh, see, there we go. A little too fast. Too fast and too furious. So now I'm going to add a little more glass because I think it's still a little too small. Keep it nice and hot in the flame. I'm going to shape it again. This is a little lopsided. You can work with it lopsided, but eventually it'll just not be right. I'm going to use the lentil shaper to give it a little bit more of a rounded edge. And now it's even more lopsided, of course. So I'm gonna have to do that again.
It's interesting how it changes the color as soon as you remove it from a flame.
Yeah, or when you touch it with this, it's like you're freezing it. So sometimes it gets these circular patterns because it's like you froze it really quickly. But you can make that go away again by reheating it. Glass is very forgiving. Unless you hold it in your hand when it's hot, then it's very unforgiving. I've done that too. I'm gonna get a little bit of a fatter stringer. Didn't like that one. Good.
So your shape is basically done by now?
Yep, now it's done. It's still a little lopsided, but it's okay. Now I'm going to start with the scrolling. So I'm going to turn down the flame a little because that way it doesn't get too hot, so that I can work a little bit more precisely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just swirl these, make swirls on this bead. Just kind of let the glass melt itself onto the bead. And just keep going around and round. Just trying to make pleasant round shapes with this beautiful silvered glass called double helix aurea. I'm going to add a few dots in the empty spaces so that we don't come up with these. And then I'm going to reheat it again, so that I'm melting in this glass into the black. I'm trying to keep the shape by constantly turning it, because when you heat it, the glass becomes liquid, and when it's liquid, you have to keep turning it to keep the shape, because gravity will pull it. Now I'm going to round it up a little bit more, and then that's done. And now I'm going to shock it. So now you see kind of a red bead with nothing much going on. I just reduced the oxygen, so now I'm going to shock it into silver, and voila, the silver comes out of the glass.
Wow.
But now it just looks silver, so now I'm going to encase it in clear. Let me get a clear rock. Get prepared. So I want to keep this bead relatively hot. So I have to keep it near the flame. So when I take it out of the flame and go away to there, I'm going to have to reheat it right away so that it doesn't cool off. If it does cool off to the core, it'll break in half. So then all this work is for nothing. So now I'm heating up the clear, and I'm going to encase it in clear. So as you can see, I keep the bead really close to the fire, but not in it, because now that it's silvered, if I put it in a flame like this, the silver will go back into the glass, and I would like to keep it on the surface. I use my first little dab of clear. The kiln is ramping itself up. It's good. I always keep an eye on the temperature to make sure that it's actually going up. When the bead is done, we want it to go into the kiln so it can slowly cool itself down, which stabilizes the glass molecules, which makes it stronger and more durable. If you were to not put it in a kiln or any other slow cooling device, it would just crack in half, and that would be the end of the bead, because the outside would cool faster than the inside. Almost done.
So right now you're just covering the bead
with clear. Yes. I'm going to shape it. Now I'm going to melt that all together and make sure that everything is covered. So otherwise you get like these little... It pulls the glass from under it to the outside, and it's not ideal. You want it all to be covered evenly, or relatively evenly. And then a little bit more at the end so it can fold towards the center of the bead. But you can't really touch the mandrel because that would mess up the bead hole. So it's a delicate balance of more or less, a little more here, a little less there.
And
now
the bead, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The bead keeps on changing color.
Yeah, because I have to see, first I'm trying not to mess with the pattern inside as I'm encasing it, but then I need it to heat up so that the outside melts together, because there's all little pieces of molten glass that aren't really fusing, so I have to heat it up a little more so it gets redder because it's hotter. I'm trying for the glass to spread over the outside of the bead. So I have to get it fairly hot. And it's turning into a bead, so that's good. I'm going to elongate just the slightest little bit because I'm going to use my lentil shaper again to round it out at the edges so that the clear glass can fold over. It's a little uneven. I'm going to heat it up really hot so I can use the lentil shaper to shape it.
Well, now you are using a larger lentil.
Yeah. I could use the middle one too, but it's not necessary right now. I really want to push the clear glass towards the edges so it folds around the edge. And when I hold it at an angle, the heat rises up into the bead. But it also kind of makes it pucker up, which I'm not really sure if I want that because it's turning into a fat little bead. It's almost done. It's almost ready for the kiln. The kiln is almost there. But I'll put it in while it's not quite 160 degrees, and then it'll just heat itself up again to 160, which does nothing to the bead. Like, it doesn't destabilize it or anything because it's still ramping up, so eventually this bead will wind up being 960 again. A little bit more oval than rounded, but that's what it is. And voila.
Ah, beautiful. The camera does not really reflect its beauty. Oh, great. And it's completely getting dark and blue.
Yeah. Can you see how it's
it's just too hot. Yeah.
No, but
red hot. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's where it gets to sleep. All right.